James's court-appointed trial attorney now says his representation for the Silver case was so bad, Antonio James didn't get a fair trial. After a 3-day proceeding, it took a jury only 30 minutes to return with the sentence of death. And so he was sent here to Angola to die. He has waited on death row since June 7th, 1983, hoping all that time for a new trial. 8 locked doors separate him from the outside world and the rest of the prison. Here the days begin, one just like the one before.
Ciao, come on in.
Friday looks like Saturday, Saturday like Sunday, week after week. Antonio James and the 57 other condemned men here have nothing to lose and nothing to do. As security risk, they spend 23 hours a day locked in their cells. So you can touch the 2 walls virtually. If you,
my arms is not that long.
We got about a ½ inch on each side.
Yeah.
If there's something to look forward to, it's the chance to see the sky. 3 times a week, inmates spend 1 hour outside in separate pens they call the kennels. In your heart of hearts, do you think that you will be executed?
Really, I don't know, but inside me, something tells me not to believe that. Oh, man.
Do you think it's going to happen this time?
I think so. Because, you know, he's had a lot of appeals, and usually you can figure it. 13, 12, and 13, they run out of gas, and he's at 14. And unless the state or the court stop the train, we're going to end up in a death chamber.
What does it take to kill a man? In a moment, a prison prepares for an execution.
The only thing that the old hands told me was not to look in his face.
At the same time, lawyers go before a judge in a race to save a life.
If he doesn't give us those 10 hours, this man's dead and the case is closed forever.
Primetime Live. Judgment at Midnight. Brought to you by the new Dodge.
More than Ford owners love their Tauruses. More than Nissan owners love their Maximas. More than anyone else in the class loves their cars. That's how much Dodge owners love their Intrepids. Dodge Intrepid, #1 in Strategic Vision's 1996 Total Quality Index in class. Intrepid. This changes everything.
In the world of credit cards, the traffic is getting pretty heavy, and it's easy to get confused by all the complicated new card offers and restrictions. But people who know where they're going use one card, Discover Card, with the cashback bonus award, the Smart Rate program, and no annual fee. For a positive impact on your finances, use the Discover Card. It pays to discover, the card that pays you back. Use it where you see the Novus sign.
Let's sweat!
He's tried diets.
I'm a pony! I'm a pony!
He's tried exercise.
Feel hungry?
He's tried experts.
Maybe you should try Jenny Craig.
But now he's about to try.
Time to see if this stuff really works.
A whole new solution.
You looking for any kind of clothes in particular?
Spandex! Oh, spandex!
Eddie Murphy is...
I'm a puppy dog.
The Nutty Professor. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, June 28th at theaters everywhere.
Some people dream of the day when America has a healthcare system with fewer children miss vaccinations and more women have mammograms, where transplants are more accessible and doctors decide how long new mothers stay in the hospital. A system that people can afford, that uses information to give each individual more freedom and better care. Some think it'll take a revolution to create a system like that. They're right. It did. United Healthcare.
Celebrate 80 years of Sinatra doing it his way with special performances by Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Selleck, Salt and Pepper, Roseanne, Ray Charles, Hootie and the Blowfish, Bruce Springsteen, and more.
Welcome to the party.
Sinatra 80 Years My Way, ABC Thursday.
What's Second No about anyway? It's about romance.
You know how I feel about you. Let me show you.
It's about Ricky. Hey, it's about life. Second Noah, ABC Saturday.
Here's what you get when you watch a funny video. And here's what you get when you watch a Muppet video. Can you feel it?
There it is.
The Muppets are back with Hollywood's biggest stars, like Sandra Bullock. It's an all-new Muppets Tonight, followed by videos ABC Sunday.
In the week leading up to the scheduled execution, the prison prepares.
All right, this one counts.
2 days before Antonio James is slated to die, a special team is at the death house, practicing his final moments. A corrections officer stands in for Antonio James, and every step the condemned man will take is carefully planned, down to the last detail.
Nobody rush, just take your time.
Meanwhile, there's another team 150 miles away in New Orleans, working to save that same life.
Supreme Court denied our writ.
Turned down by a state court, attorney Nick Trentacosta must now convince a federal judge to hear what he says are 6 new witnesses who will testify that Antonio James wasn't the shooter. You believe Antonio James is innocent of these crimes?
Absolutely.
But taken in the best light from your client's point of view, he's at least guilty of murder in the 2nd degree, which is life in prison without the possibility of parole. So we're not really talking about innocence in the way that people think about innocence.
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. We're talking about innocent of killing someone. Innocent of pulling the trigger and killing someone. Mr. James is that.
So, Warden, this is where Antonio James will take his final steps down this corridor here. As the clock hits midnight, these 6 men will be prepared to carry Antonio James to the death chamber if he falters or resists. No one ever has.
When you turn the curve and see the table, it's a shock. The room is like it is. It's white. It looks, it looks sterile, which, it looks alive, but yet it reeks of death. Okay, Antonio, you can make your last statement now.
At the same time, Trentacosta is heading to court, where the judge must decide whether or not he's willing to hear those witnesses, which would halt the execution.
All we're asking for, Judge, if you're not so sure that we win the case, just give us 10 hours to put our proof on. Because if he doesn't give us those 10 hours, this man's dead and the case is closed forever.
Prosecutor Jack Peebles will be in court to oppose Trentacosta. He'll argue that most of those new witnesses are still in jail and not worth listening to.
Previously, his efforts of this type have been denied in the federal courts. We are going to ask the judge to deny this one also.
They're just going to lift him up and set him here. They'll lay him down, and each person on the strap-down team has a specific strap even.
Are there any things that the fellas who've been on the team longer tell the people who first come on it?
I think the only thing that the old hands told me was not to look in his face. I guess it becomes more personal when you look in his face.
People say that lethal injection is really a very easy way for these men to die. Is that true?
It's not how you die, though. I don't think. It's the walk in the door. It's the sit on the table. It's the straps around your arms, because it takes you longer to strap you in here than it does an electric chair. So, is it the pain of death? I don't think it is. I think it's the anticipation of death.
Back in New Orleans, court is in recess, and Nick Trentacosta is hopeful.
Well, we had 2 hours of oral argument to the judge, and I think he's deeply troubled by the evidence we present to him, and he, as he announced from the bench, he needs to think about it for the next couple hours before making his decision of whether to stop the execution.
I think the argument went well, and he's going to let us know at 2 o'clock.
Together, Nick Trentacosta and Antonio James have been fighting off death for 8 years. Trentacosta now represents 22 men on death row at Angola, but Antonio James was the first.
I got a lot of confidence in you. And before you leave, I want to tell you that I miss you and I love you.
Well, Tony, I love you too, man.
I appreciate that.
As we stand in this room, a room that's filled with so much mystery and
Death, a lot of death in this room. Electric chair used to sit right here, and that was the ventilator fan to take out the stench.
But now, death will come through the IV lines that will be inserted into Antonio James's arms after he is strapped to the table.
Okay, how you feel? Oh, that's good. Everything's fine.
At this point, the only thing that could stop the real execution is a last-minute call.
These two phones, one is to the Department of Corrections, one is to the governor's mansion.
Right.
There's a code word. And if this phone rings and they don't do the code word, I ignore the call.
And if that phone doesn't ring, the executioner, in a small room behind one-way glass, takes his cue from the warden.
And I'll give a signal to them in there, and then they'll know then to go ahead and they manually do the injection into the IV line of the drug that's going to cause the death.
The theory is that it's the worst of the worst who are executed.
No. There's meaner people in this prison than the people on death row. And that's what's sad, because sometimes even ourselves, as warden, would shudder. We let this guy go from prison, and we say, man, that's crazy, let that one go. But yet we keep this one over here that we think and feel like is totally rehabilitated. But then we don't second-guess the system. We should.
Tony, we got bad news.
The judge has made a decision.
We got bad news, Tony.
Okay.
He ruled against us without letting us have a hearing.
Okay.
That means their new witnesses will not be heard. But Trent Acosta and his co-counsel Denny LaBeouf don't have time for a post-mortem. They are already moving on to the next battle.
So I'm leaving in a few minutes, Tony, and I should see you this evening. Apparently they're going to let me chat with you about the pardon board tomorrow, so I'll be there not too long.
The judge made the decision that we expected and that we asked for. Pardon board hearing is set for tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at Angola. That'll be the next step.
For the defense team, it will be a long night, like so many others before. On a case that's been heard 26 different times in 5 courts, Trent Acosta has all but run out of legal options. Most of his hope now rests with tomorrow's pardon board, which can recommend to the governor that James's life be spared.
Just ahead on Eyewitness News, this convicted killer makes one last attempt to save his own life.
And the pardon board met today at Angola, where James is scheduled to die by lethal injection early Friday morning.
Pardon board hearings?
Yeah.
Today, attorneys who defended James and those who prosecuted him spoke before the pardon board. So did relatives of the victim.
Last April, pardon board members rejected James's plea by a vote of 3-2.
Antonio James is remarkably calm for a man facing death.
We are here today to hear the application of Mr. James in reference to the state's decree that he be executed before this weekend.
We believe this is a changed man.
Ladies and gentlemen, this man was convicted by a jury fairly.
The worst thing that could happen would be the execution of a man who's innocent of the crime for which he's being executed.
His guilt or innocence is something for the jury to decide, not for you to decide.
Mr. Antonio James has appealed and appealed and appealed for 16 years. My uncle begged for his life. One night, one appeal. He didn't get it. Mr. James has changed. Isn't that great? We're glad that he changed. My uncle has not changed. He's still rotting in his grave. He's been there for 17 years.
And for 17 years, Elvin Adams Jr. has also waited for Antonio James to pay for his crime. Oddly enough, the defense hopes that today Mr. Adams might actually help their client. It's a long shot, but they are desperate.
I also want to tell this board briefly that I participated in a very remarkable meeting last Friday between Tony James and Mr. Alvin Adams.
Mr. James, how you doing? You could be better, Mr. James. How you been doing?
I'm doing okay.
That's good. That's good.
I want you to understand how truly sorry I am for your father's death.
Mr. James, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
James's lawyers are hoping that after spending some time together, Adams will tell the pardon board that Antonio James is a changed man who doesn't deserve to die.
My father was Alvin E. Adams. I was up here last Friday, and Antonio James and I talked. Mr. James told me that he was not the trigger man in my father's murder. I asked Mr. James, what did you do?
I understood that.
By you being there. You are just as much guilty as the one that pulled the trigger, even though you may not have pulled the trigger. You see?
But if I'm innocent or not, it doesn't matter. Does it matter to you?
Daddy, do it matter to you? He didn't answer.
One meeting could not erase 17 years of pain and anger.
It's time for Mr. James to answer. The only sorry I feel is for Mr. James' family, because I love my father and I know his family love him, but enough is enough.
In the end, the pardon board agrees.
We find no compelling reason at this time to change the sentence that was pronounced upon you by your fellow Americans. With that, we will conclude this hearing. Thank you.
By a vote of 3-2, the State Pardon Board today rejected convicted killer Antonio James' plea to spare his life.
Family members of the victim are clearly pleased with the Pardon Board's decision. The family members for the condemned man wept openly after the decision was read.
James argued for his life, perhaps for the last time. This afternoon, the State Pardon Board refused James's request for a stay of execution, but the courts and the governor still have a say in the matter. James was found guilty of robbing and killing a man in the French Quarter back in 1979. Only a phone call from the governor or an extraordinary move by the courts can keep Antonio James from the death chamber.
In the KCL, is a cardiac drug, and that'll stop his heart.
The countdown to midnight, and primetime continues.
Look, it's the world's first on-battery tester from Energizer. You just press the dots to make sure your battery will keep going and going. A battery like this deserves to be in the spotlight, preferably alone.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, we're here to help you take advantage of the moment and help you plan for the next, because American Express is here to help you do more.
They say the moment you hear the diagnosis, you stop hearing everything else. That's why Time Life Medical and former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop are introducing individual videos with workbooks designed to help you and your loved ones better understand a serious diagnosis, what it means, and what happens next. Because the sooner you understand the diagnosis, the sooner you can start doing something about it. Time Life Medical at your pharmacy now.
FedEx uses over 500 airplanes to handle your 2-day package. Cost? About $12.
UPS uses over 500 airplanes to handle your 2-day package. Cost? About $6.
The U.S. Postal Service uses over 15,000 airplanes to handle your priority mail 2- to 3-day package. Cost? $3.
So, 12, 6, 3, what's your priority? Priority mail from the U.S. Postal Service.
Now, the look is Flesh Tones. Revlon Flesh Tones. In Revlon Super Lustrous Lipstick and Revlon Nail Enamel.
It's the new reality in color.
For the right look, right now, Revlon Flesh Tones.
Okay, look straight ahead. Read lines 7 through 10, please.
It's a little blurry.
How about now?
Michael J. Fox, Tuesdays this fall.
Now one more line.
Oh, perfect.
Friday, amazing pictures. This man's getting mugged, and mugged again, and again. And he wants it to happen. Why does he do this night after night? Find out on 2020, Friday on ABC.
Through the years in this country, we have changed our minds about the death penalty. At the turn of the century, public executions grew into a form of macabre entertainment, and so were later banished to the secrecy of the prison death chamber. Briefly, during the mid-60s, more Americans opposed the death penalty than supported it. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional in 1972. And then, in 1976, the court reversed itself. Today, 38 states have capital punishment. And during the 20 years since it was reinstated, 331 people have been executed. The latest one, just this morning in Arizona. In the final hours, a condemned man sees his mother, his son, and his grandson for what may be the last time.
My dad crying.
A family's last chance for memories when prime time continues after this from our ABC stations.
With its available 183 horsepower engine, the all-new 4Runner is so rugged it can take you far from civilization. Which is ironic when you consider that with its immense, well-appointed interior, civilization is never all that far away. The all-new 4Runner from Toyota.
Looking for a truck with these kinds of standard features? You can get 3 out of 5 on Dodge Dakota for over $11,500. Ford Ranger looks like a pretty good deal at first, until you add a couple of things and watch the price jump. Only Chevy S-Series has it all for just $10,374 after $600 cash back. Drive an S-Series pickup today for just $10,374 from your Super Chevy dealers of Central Illinois.
Coming up tonight at 10.
High-tech science can do so many things these days, even tell you if you're likely to develop some diseases. But finding out could cost you and your kids your insurance policies. More on that on Nightcast. Also tonight, if you haven't heard already, you may flip at the news. The Cardinals' Ozzie Smith is calling it quits at the end of the season.
My thing was to finish my career as a St. Louis Cardinal.
We'll have it all on Nightcast. The best news you'll get all day.
You may think you're too big for school, but you're not. Children first.
Sponsored by WAND and Consolidated Communications.
We're Central Illinois' news station, WAND.
Two o'clock. Antonio James has 10 hours to live as his family arrives for a final visit. Their bus ride to the death house is somber.
Well, you forgot about your boy, Michael Perry.
While he waits for his family, Antonio James has asked for Sergeant Henry to wait with him. The guard and the prisoner arrived on death row at nearly the same time. And now, to pass the hours, they reminisce about the inmates they have known.
Okay, we forgot Sonia's brother. You can mention him, yeah.
For the family, this day is about faith and denial. James's mother made this same trip to the death house last year. So she continues to believe this is not the last time she will see her son. James's son, 19-year-old Antonio Jr., has spent this week making up for lost time. He's seen his father 4 times these last 6 days, twice as much as in the entire 12 years before. Tony Jr. brings his son, yet another Antonio, to see the grandfather he had never met until this week.
I was wondering how you feel about seeing your family today. There are bound to be tears.
Yeah.
So the tears make it harder for you?
Well, it hurts me because I know what they're going through.
Of his 6 siblings, James is especially close to his sister Lupita.
I can't breathe. I can deal with me. I can deal with whatever I have to go through. It's that when you look at someone else and you recognize the impact that it's going to take on them.
You gonna sing Happy Birthday? You gonna sing Happy Birthday?
Brother. The goal today is to keep things upbeat, provide distraction, anything to help the condemned man maintain his composure.
You're all right, huh?
James himself reminds one of the young nephews how to play his part.
14-year-old man, I love you, bro. I know that. Don't go to acting crazy. That's the worst thing you could do now.
Oh, no.
If you get that crazy, I'm going to put you out. Huh?
I'm not going to get crazy, man.
5:30.
Throughout the visit, James pays closest attention to his mother and the minutes ticking away, until Antonio Jr. takes the watch right off his father's wrist. a keepsake promised to him, something he could pass on to his own son. The watch is the only possession Antonio James has to give. Next door, dinner preparations get underway. The last meal will be served in the visiting room once the family has been cleared out at 6 o'clock.
I want a picture, Daddy.
The hour approaches. There is now only time for a few last memories.
I just don't want to see him get in no kind of trouble out there, that's all. I want to see him take care of himself and be strong out there and hang on.
In the end, it is Antonio James who comforts his family.
Mom. Mama.
Grandma.
You just gotta hang in there, man. It's gonna be all right.
I got my dad crying.
Look, Grandpa. Look, Grandpa.
I'm tired, big hug.
Remember that. Okay.
He ain't got his selfish gun, remember?
Okay. All right. I got to sit over here. All right. All right. Take care.
6 o'clock. At the front gate, one of the witnesses has arrived hours ahead of time.
Will this close a chapter on your life?
It'll close the chapter as far as Mr. James is concerned, but it'll never stop the hurt and the sorrow.
A few moments later, James's family leaves by the front gate and also attracts the attention of the press.
And let's go now to Angola. You say it's Charles Molyneux is there. Charles?
Well, John Margaret, James spent the day with his family. His family has now left. He will spend the rest of this evening having his last meal.
I am at Angola, where it appears the execution of condemned killer Antonio James will go on as scheduled.
Even now, James's attorneys are furiously working the U.S. Supreme Court, trying to get a stay. But they admit that's a long shot, and they fully expect their client to be executed sometime after midnight tonight.
Well, he has fewer than 6 hours to live. 41-year-old convicted killer Antonio James' life is now in the hands of the United States Supreme Court.
He has ordered a seafood platter for his last meal. He will spend the rest of the evening with his spiritual advisor and attorneys. They have until 3 o'clock by law to do it, 3 o'clock in the morning. But they usually get started at 12:01, George.
Okay, thanks very much. James Rose reporting live from Angola prison, where the man will be put to death about 6 hours.
And he can sit here.
What will you do when it's over?
Take a deep breath, and we'll go back through it another dozen times and want to do it right. You know, just wonder what God thinks.
Will you pray that day, that night?
Try to pray every day, yeah. We're going to pray when we have supper that night. Well, let's bow our head and we'll say grace. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this meal. We just thank you for this food. We just pray.
All these are almost instantaneous. Before the syringes are empty, they've taken effect. The first syringe is sodium pentothal. That's going to put him to sleep.
Comfort the victims, and you'll comfort Tony as he takes his walk tonight, if it so be.
Second one is pancurium bromide. It's going to stop him from breathing.
We just pray that you'll bless each and every one of us and be with us through this day.
And the KCL is a cardiac drug, and that'll stop his heart.
Bless his food. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay. You first.
If Antonio asked you to hold his hand, would you?
The victims are going to say, I wish someone had held my daughter's hand while somebody was killing her. And I'm going to say, if I had been there with your daughter and I was in a position where I could have done that, I would have held your daughter's hand if I could have. And I wouldn't even have let it happen if I could have. But since I couldn't be there, it doesn't mean I shouldn't do what I should do while I'm here with him. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
The answer then has to be, yes, I'd hold his hand.
Well, Mr. Henry, you came there with Sarah and never took you out to dinner.
What about that, Henry? Man got a sense of humor.
James works to keep the mood light. It is perhaps the only thing left he can control.
Yeah, no. I don't want them to think that it's going to be any kind of problem or something like that, you know. So I just was trying to make the situation for him as comfortable as for myself.
You're trying to make the warden comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see y'all later then.
All right, Warden.
Okay. Now, y'all do not cry.
No, indeed.
And make this man have to console y'all like he did the last time.
I know, we're not gonna do it. We promise.
That's what me and him said I was going to tell y'all. I did good, Tony, didn't I, with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
This is not something I look forward to do. And I don't know that it's right or wrong. I know that right now this is the law of the land. This is what we do, and this is what we're going to do.
Have you asked Antonio James to forgive you for what your role in this is?
See, that's the part I don't vacillate on. I don't need any forgiveness for my role in what I'm doing. If I needed forgiveness, then I'd be committing sins and I'd be doing wrong. I'm not doing wrong.
Until the end, Antonio James continues to maintain he never shot either victim.
We've talked a lot about what you're innocent of, and I want to ask you, what are you guilty of?
Armed robbery.
Armed robbery. When you talk to God about your sins,
I ask for forgiveness.
that doesn't include their deaths.
It includes their death for being present. I'm going to try to find it.
There are going to be people watching this who say Antonio James is just a great con artist, that he's just conning all of us.
That's okay. That's fine. Because it doesn't matter if he is or not. It matters how we ourselves deal with this and how it moves me and how it moves others, and that's what really counts. I don't think he is, but if he is, it's still okay.
Back at his ranch office, Warden Kane joins his staff for their dinner.
You think he's going to get a stay? Think it's sayonara, huh? Paul, would you pass the ketchup? You can help yourself first.
Last year by this time, the warden had already gotten the call that stopped the execution. Tonight, no word.
We're just kind of on standby and watching the clock, and he's doing fine. He's with his two religious advisors.
This is from the Supreme Court.
This application to stay of execution.
When did you receive this one?
About 5 minutes ago or 10.
So that
Okay.
that means?
That means it's denied. So that means execution will probably take place. Its own.
The James family will not be permitted inside the prison for the execution, so they gather for a prayer vigil at the front gate.
You still want to think a little bit about the victim, too? But we can't deal with the victim now. You just got to forget all that. Got to deal with this. So let's proceed. We watch the clock. What you have, 10:38. As a lawyer says, we have a horrible job, horrible way to make a living. Think we do?
For some, the warden's job is a sad but necessary one.
I wish we didn't have to be here tonight. I wish nobody had been murdered.
For 16 years, since this couple's daughter was brutally murdered, they have held their own vigil, supporting every execution. For Antonio Jr., this is too much.
That's my fault. How you think I feel? How you think I feel? He's about to be killed for something he hasn't done.
Will we stop having victims?
Stop having victims?
That's right. Stop having somebody else decided to take somebody else's life.
How do you think? How do you know he took his life? You don't even know the person. What's his name?
Antonio G. James.
And what happens now?
Well, till about 11:45, we keep waiting, and we'll prepare him to go ahead and go to the death chamber. If we get no calls, if nothing happened, you know, it's still kind of a fluid thing. It could go either way.
For Aaron $10 grand.
I'm in a pretty bad custody fight.
The only way to get out of a tight spot
It's going to cost me $15,000 for this appeal.
is to get in the spotlight.
I still get nauseous before I have to go out there.
Castle Rock Entertainment presents Cream Corn Wrestling.
No.
Demi Moore.
You're Mrs. Grant?
No, I'm Barbara Bush.
Striptease.
Who is he?
George Bush. Rated R. At theaters, June 28th.
Dodge Ram has won a lot of awards from a lot of experts, from a lot of magazines. But according to a survey of new vehicle owners by Strategic Vision, Ram is also winner of the Total Quality Award for Best Owner Experience in its class for the second year in a row. An award from the most important truck experts of all, the people who make the payments. Dodge Ram. The rules have changed.
Try the Olive Garden's new Pronto menu for lunch, featuring our soup, salad, and breadsticks, only $4.95. Just one of many delicious lunches now served with your busy schedule in mind. The new Pronto menu at the Olive Garden for lunch.
It's mine. It's all mine.
They have now entered
What? This is impossible. How can they do this? Stop. Stop.
Every day, MasterCard opens over 3,000 new acceptance locations worldwide.
Oh, at least we still have Cochabamba.
No! MasterCard. It's smart money.
Just put Velveeta into a bowl. Pour on the salsa till you lose control. Make it hot. And then you got goodness gracious, great bowls of fire. Velveeta and salsa.
Sunday, while the other networks give you the same old rerun around. ABC's got Alec Baldwin, Kim Basinger, Paul Reiser, and Elizabeth Shue. In a network television premiere, The Marrying Man, ABC Sunday.
Craig T. Nelson in a powerful drama.
All I want to do is spend a little time with your son, just get to know him.
With the help of a sick boy, a man changed his life.
You ever get scared?
Yeah.
The heartwarming story, Ride with the Wind.
This Monday on ABC.
From the people who brought you one clever idea after another comes the Plymouth Clever Ways to Save sale. Save on all our clever ideas. Get up to $1,300 in package values on new Plymouth Voyager. Our lowest APRs on Plymouth Neon. And you can breeze into a brand new Plymouth Breeze with this great low price. The Plymouth Clever Ways to Save sale. It's one clever way to save after another. And it's only at your Plymouth dealer.
It is just a few minutes before midnight. Now, only a phone call from the governor can save Antonio James's life.
Amazing grace, how sweet the
Roll a good cuff up in your pants. Put your sweatshirt on.
I told the warden tonight that I hated to hear this talk from him, that I'm just doing a job. We've heard that before from people, and we know that sometimes you just have to stand up and you say, this job of killing people is not what I should be involved in. And I told the warden, I said, I hate to hear you say that, but I would never counsel you against being here because you are important to my clients, and he is. There have been other wardens that have not treated my clients with the kind of dignity and respect that he does.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
At midnight, Warden Kane leads Antonio James to the death chamber.
For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, now and forever.
He was my friend, and I will miss him.
Antonio James was pronounced dead at 12:27 a.m. this morning. Thank you.
He wasn't crying with us. I can't feel him. I can't touch him. He's crying with us.
It wasn't no fun watching a man die. And it's no fun burying someone that you love, that someone like Mr. James have killed. Mr. James decided to take lives. So Mr. James had to surrender his life.
Tell us what happened tonight.
Well, he was laying there, and then he kind of grabbed my hand, so I held his hand, and then I told him he'd wait for us, get ready. Going for the ride. And I said, the angels are here. He kind of smiled. He said, bless you. That's the last words he said. And then I had nodded my head to go ahead. He was holding my hand real tight. And then after a couple of minutes, he took about 3 or 4 deep breaths, and then he relaxed my hand. I do believe right now his soul is in heaven, and he's okay. And since I believe that, then that makes it easier.
And tomorrow?
It's like the dog barks and the caravan keeps moving across the endless desert. So is life.
And Antonio James's cell on death row will be filled by someone else?
Quickly.
Tonight on Nightcast, high-tech science can now tell you if you're likely to get a disease, but finding out could cost you and your kids more than you think.
And he's an all-American favorite, and the Cardinals' Ozzie Smith is calling it quits. All next on Nightcast.
Some people dream of the day when America has a healthcare system with fewer children miss vaccinations and more women have mammograms, where transplants are more accessible, and doctors decide how long new mothers stay in the hospital. A system that people can afford, that uses information to give each individual more freedom and better care. Some think it'll take a revolution to create a system like that. They're right. It did. United Healthcare.
In the world of credit cards, the traffic is getting pretty heavy, and it's easy to get confused by all the complicated new card offers and restrictions. But people who know where they're going use one card, Discover Card, with the Cashback Bonus Award, the Smart Rate Program, and no annual fee. For a positive impact on your finances, use the Discover Card. It pays to discover, the card that pays you back. Use it where you see the Novus sign.
He wears it all the time. It's his lucky shirt. Don't risk it, whisk it. Whisk's new color hold formula fights tough stains and keeps colors bright. No matter...
Hi, Mom.
How many times...
Hi, Mom.
You wash it. Hi, Mom. New Whisk with color hold bleaching action.
After a tough workout, treat yourself to something new. Introducing new Tropical Passions Pineapple Orange. Exotic, fruity, refreshing. So whatever you do to work out, treat yourself right.
Recently, Car and Driver magazine rated Dodge Intrepid over the new Ford Taurus. They described Intrepid as poised, agile, and athletic. They said it was born to run. They went on about its vast interior, calling Intrepid outstanding. and concluded it's a lot of car for the money. Car and driver just can't say enough about Intrepid, but we like it when they try. Intrepid, this changes everything.
There are currently more than 3,000 men and women on death row, and our Cynthia McFadden is here now to share some thoughts with us. One of the strangest parts, still the eeriest, has to be the detail of the rehearsal to get it right. And did they?
Well, Diane, the warden told me that it didn't go smoothly. Of course, our cameras weren't permitted in the execution chamber. No state has ever permitted that. The warden said that they had to actually unstrap Antonio James's arms from the execution table because they weren't able to get a vein in which they could pump the lethal poisons. In fact, the medical personnel were apologizing for taking so long and for not being able to get a vein right away. So it didn't go as smoothly as they had hoped.
And what about Antonio James himself? What does his story tell us about the others on death row?
He's quite typical. Most are young. Most have very few resources. Most are poor and have few resources to help defend themselves. And most are not very educated. Antonio James taught himself to read while he was on death row.
Did you talk to the victims' families afterwards? Were they consoled?
I talked to the son of one of the victims, Alvin Adams Jr., and he was relieved it was over, but he said that really didn't provide any closure for him. He said that, you know, he would always miss his father, and he said that he hoped someday executions are shown on television because he says maybe it would stop some kid from following the same path.
Question of justice, always with us. And thank you, Cynthia McFadden. That's our program for tonight. There will be more on this on Good Morning America tomorrow. Watch it. And Sam Donaldson will be back next week. I'm Diane Sawyer in New York. Good night to all of you, and we hope you join us next Wednesday evening for another edition of Primetime Live.
This is Ted Koppel. Later on Nightline, celebrities have paid millions to plug the products while kids are paid pennies to make them. The story behind the scandal tonight.
This is Charles Gibson.
And Joan London. Tomorrow, they're all different, so how do you raise your youngest, your oldest, and your middle child?
The answers in our Good Morning America guide to raising great kids. Tomorrow, here on ABC.
To order a video cassette or transcript of Primetime Live, call 1-800-913-3434.
Primetime is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
The American Broadcasting Company, ABC.
WAND News with Julie Moore, Bob Murray, and Ron Rector.
One recent study shows up to 22% say yes, that they do feel that they've been discriminated against.
Diseases carried on in your family could mean denial of insurance. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. If you had a disease and could get tested to see if you've passed it on to your children, would you?
What if it meant that your kids could be denied insurance? It's all part of a debate over genetic testing. Our Jeremy Finley reports.
Here at this Illinois crime lab, DNA information is used to identify criminals. That same information is also denying insurance to those who possibly could have a life-threatening disease. There's concern that insurance companies will get results of genetic tests and won't cover those with a disease in their family. It's happening to this woman. She had ovarian cancer, wanted to know if she had passed it on to her children, but was told by her gynecologist she would put her daughters in danger of being denied coverage. To protect her identity, she told her story by phone.
All of my family, they are all subject to carrying this mutated BRCA1 gene. It would be devastating for them if I went through with this testing.
Melissa Wesson is angry that the advances in pinpointing diseases with DNA could harm her patients.
There have been cases reported where insurance companies have found out genetic test results and either refused insurance or made it so extremely expensive that a family couldn't afford it.
The concern over genetic testing is scheduled to be debated here in the Illinois Senate in the fall. This bill would keep the results of genetic tests away from insurance companies.
But are insurance companies relying on the genetic test results? An Illinois Health Alliance spokeswoman says, "When I spoke to our head of underwriting about this, he basically didn't know what I was talking about." Another Springfield Health Insurance agent says, "We don't look at DNA results, but this may be a way of the future. 5 years ago, we also didn't pay much attention to carpal tunnel syndrome. Today, we do."
As we isolate more genes and we determine genetic susceptibility to more and more conditions, that the frequency of or the potential for genetic discrimination has increased and will probably continue to increase.
In Springfield, Jeremy Finley, WAND News.
The genetic testing bill has already passed the Illinois House.
A McDonnell Douglas pilot died when the jet he was flying crashed into a garage near Bethalto this afternoon. Authorities confirmed the death of the pilot, whose name has not been released. An official says the residents were home but were not hurt. The pilot was using the new FA-18 fighter jet to practice for an air show in the Czech Republic next week. An eyewitness says the aircraft was doing acrobatics, then sheared off the top of several trees and tore out power lines before hitting the garage. A published report says the Archer Daniels Midland Company is fighting a government subpoena. The Wall Street Journal says the government wants to obtain records related to former executive Mark Whitaker, specifically those dealing with the millions of dollars he took from ADM. The company accused Whitaker of embezzling more than $9 million after they learned of his role as an FBI informant. Whitaker's undercover activity resulted in a price-fixing investigation against ADM.
It's an historical day for African Americans around the nation and right here in central Illinois. From the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 to the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., African Americans have a lot to celebrate. Here's WAND's Kim Davis.
And live out the true meaning of its creed.
The words of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about a nation of equality. Today is Juneteenth, commemorating the emancipation of slaves, and many African Americans are celebrating the victories over the years.
Such as the Civil Rights Act and the overturning of the Plessy versus Ferguson and the Supreme Court case in 1954, I think, Brown versus Board of Education.
The signing of the Emancipation Proclamation meant freedom for slaves, but today African Americans still struggle for equal opportunities. Some have mixed emotions about Juneteenth, saying African Americans still have a long way to go.
We don't have senior loan officers in the banks that are African American. We have about 2 African American attorneys in our city. We have hardly any store managers in any of the major department stores that are African American. In our police department, very small makeup. In our fire department, very small makeup.
One thing is certain, far too few people know the significance of today's date in history. Not only does it mark the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation, but the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as well. In Decatur, Kim Davis, WAND News.
The African American Genealogical and Cultural Society of Illinois sponsored a Juneteenth parade in downtown Decatur over the weekend. Well, authorities say a fire early today at a predominantly black church in Maryland was accidental.
That tops tonight's World Watch report. Preliminary findings say the blaze started with a bad electrical outlet in the kitchen. Meanwhile, 2 arrests in the Mississippi church fires. In one, 2 black males. The other, a white volunteer firefighter. Neither is believed to be racially motivated.
And today, proposed legislation to expand federal authority to prosecute church arson and authorize federal funds for more investigators as well as loans to rebuild churches. President Bill Clinton is promising another $12 million to help stop the fires.
The military's second fatal helicopter collision in little over a month killed 6 soldiers and injured 30 people in Kentucky yesterday. 2 Army Black Hawk helicopters collided in flight during training exercises. The casualties were members of the Army's elite 101st Airborne Division.
More bad news for ValueJet. Apparently 2 mechanics filed false records on oxygen generators carried on the ValueJet flight 592. The canisters are suspected of playing a part in last month's crash. The 2 work for a subcontractor hired by ValueJet contractor SaberTech.
Dr. Jack Kevorkian has attended another death. That word from his lawyer, who identifies the victim as 58-year-old Lana Jones of Chester, Virginia. This is the 30th suicide Kevorkian has acknowledged attending since 1990.
Here's some good news. The first new drug therapy in 15 years for treating patients with cerebral palsy and many brain injuries just received marketing approval from the Food and Drug Administration. The therapy, called IBT, is already sold to treat spinal injuries. The approval specifically covers cerebral palsy and head trauma patients.
Today marks the 35th anniversary of the Peace Corps. President Clinton marked the day with a tribute in the White House Rose Garden. Clinton called the Peace Corps an antidote to cynicism. It was a special evening for a very influential woman. Betsy Stockard received an award tonight for her work with the Stop the Violence marches. Decatur Mayor Terry Howley presented Stockard with the award at the 69th Annual Illinois-Wisconsin State Association Convention. The Stop the Violence marches are peaceful demonstrations against violence in communities.
Well, a little piece of central Illinois is headed into space on the shuttle tomorrow. That story still to come.
It is a delightful night tonight, clear to partly cloudy skies, and by early tomorrow morning, a low of 64 degrees and more great late spring weather because summer doesn't officially begin till tomorrow night at just about this time. 64 bright and early in the morning, 88 at noontime, and at 5 o'clock, a high of 92 degrees.
Ooh, thanks, Bob. And that hot weather can be dangerous. Coming up, what you need to know about heat exhaustion and heat stroke. You could be a victim this summer.
And this is your last baseball season to see Ozzie Smith in a Cardinal uniform. Stay with us.
With its available 183 horsepower engine, the all-new 4Runner is so rugged it can take you far from civilization. Which is ironic when you consider that with its immense, well-appointed interior. Civilization is never all that far away. The all-new 4Runner from Toyota.
Something fresh is coming up at Subway, presenting Subway's fresh value meals. Take a peek at any of 7 sandwiches. Fresh baked bread. All made right before your eyes. Now get a 6-inch sub with chips and a 21-ounce soft drink. Starting at $2.99. Subway, no better value on land or sea.
Okay, ready? Let's go. Now twist, and again, and turn, and toss. Just great. Now reach, and bend, and push, and turn, and slice, and stop.
Introducing the new Chicken Pasta Caesar Salad and the new Mardi Gras Pasta Salad. And a free Diet Coke with any summer salad.
Now reach, and sip, and smile.
Perkins, breakfast, dinner, and everything in between.
These help define a Consumer's Digest Best Buy and help explain why Dodge Caravan has been named a Best Buy 2 years in a row. These help define the Dodge Best Buy Celebration and where you can get great deals on America's best-selling minivan, Dodge Caravan. Now with sliding doors available on both sides, even seats that roll in and out. The Dodge Best Buy Celebration. It just doesn't get any better. See the friendly Dodge dealer near you.
I'm Deborah Harris. Join us live at 5 and find out what to do to live long and well. We'll show you some tips to increase your mental and physical energy at 5 tomorrow.
Postal workers across the nation took time to picket today, protesting what they say are changes affecting the quality of mail service. Letter carriers in Decatur carried signs outside the main post office and at Memorial Station. Their complaints include changes in delivery hours and staffing.
Some of the things that are going on is they're starting us later in the morning. We're 10 carriers short, which means that we don't have enough carriers to cover people that are on vacation, so they're splitting up routes. People are getting their deliveries at supper time, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night.
Carriers say the changes are going to hurt the quality of mail service they consider the best in the world.
Bob's predicting temperatures will hit the mid-90s this weekend with the humidity climbing right beside it. That combination can lead to heat exhaustion if you overexert yourself while outdoors. Symptoms of heat exhaustion include dizziness, nausea, and fatigue. What else to watch for?
They're out in the heat and then all of a sudden they stop sweating, they get chest pain or trouble breathing. They probably need to come in and cool off a little bit. And if they don't snap out of it and start feeling better within a half hour or an hour, then probably should seek some medical attention.
Heat stroke is a more serious and often life-threatening condition. It occurs when your body is unable to regulate its temperature. 30% of heat stroke victims die. The summer months mean more construction zones on Illinois highways. State police say that means it's time to slow down. But earlier today, Sergeant Flynn Hanner says a motorist almost ran over a construction worker.
A gentleman came through, almost struck the sign holder. He had words with the gentleman. The gentleman then threatened to shoot this individual. We were able to locate that individual out on the highway, stop him, and place him under arrest for aggravated assault on a construction worker in a highway zone.
If you're caught speeding in a construction zone when workers are present, you could get slapped with a minimum fine of $150. So slow down.
Well, you think it's warm today. Wait till tomorrow. Bob's next.
Then in our News Extra, a tough issue. Saving lives versus cruelty to animals. It's coming to a head in Washington.
And find out why a piece of Central Illinois will be on board the space shuttle tomorrow.
The National Jeep Sale is back. Your opportunity to get a great deal on one of America's legendary adventure vehicles. Buy or lease Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with up to $1150 in values. Get up to $1836 in values on Jeep Cherokee Sport with no charge air. And check out the all-new fun-loving 97 Wrangler. So see your Jeep and Eagle dealer now, because something this exciting will be over before you know it.
See your local Jeep and Eagle dealer.
It's your home. Shouldn't it be right? That's been Stanley Steamer's belief for over 48 years. From carpet to upholstery, we'll get it clean and we'll do it right. After all, we're not talking about just anywhere. We're talking about where you live.
Call now and Stanley Steamer will clean 3 areas of your home for just $75 during our spring cleaning savings event.
Stanley Steamer makes you feel right at home.
Our world is unjust. Unemployment, the cost of education, violence on me. This marks the first day of my hunger strike.
The Boss from Hardee's, a new quarter-pound burger with a sauce so irresistible, so tempting, we put it on the top and the bottom.
What passion, what commitment.
ATM lines, junk mail.
It's the sauce that makes the Boss, now only 99 cents.
Dodge Ram is #1 in resale versus Ford, Chevy, and GMC. #1 in horsepower. #1 in torque. Even #1 in payload and overall power. In fact, Dodge Ram is #1 in more categories than any full-size pickup. So it should come as no surprise that across America, Dodge pickups are #1 in sales growth. Come see #1 Dodge Ram at the friendly Dodge dealer near you.
The weather is brought to you in part by Northtown Ford in Decatur.
Another absolutely gorgeous evening.
But a little warm.
A little warm, but a terrific day today. What was a better place than Fairview Pool in Decatur?
Inside in the air conditioning.
Yeah, one of two places. Let's take the former and go to Fairview Pool and see how much fun the youngsters were enjoying all that nice, cool water. And we're going to stay nice and warm, so keep those plans to go out and take a dip. We've got fair skies tonight in 76, humidity at 72%, heat index 79, north wind at about 5, pressure at 29.86, holding steady, and no rain in the gauge today. Let's take a check on high temperatures, and they were very reasonable considering that probably over about the next 48 hours we'll be up another 5, 6, maybe even 7 degrees at some locations. Decatur 88, Springfield you had 85, Taylorville 88 degrees for a high along with Lincoln, Bloomington normal, Shelbyville 88 in Litchfield, over Champaign-Urbana your high at 85 degrees. Now as far as weather facts are concerned, 88 was the high with a low at 67, 87 and 64, that's the norm, 103 is the record for the high, 46 way back in 1909, no change, of course, in the rain. Across the state of Illinois, 77 up at Rockford, Windy City of Chicago at 79, over along the Mississippi River, Quincy at 85, down in Belleville 90, Southern Illinois, Marion records a 91-degree high, as was the case at St. Louis today, 75 in Chicago. cooler at Duluth and at New York, both at 64 degrees. Rapid City, South Dakota at 70, while down in Texas, they hit triple digits at several locations. These are just two examples. Big D at 101, Dallas, and 106 degrees at San Antonio. Out west, Phoenix still in the triple digits, along with Las Vegas, Denver at 89 degrees, and a very comfortable 72 up in Seattle. The explosion zone overnight tonight. A severe thunderstorm watch has just been issued for practically all of central and western Iowa until 3 a.m. in the morning. But it appears as though that's all going to stay to the north of us. This is a weather pattern that is favorable for us to get some more hot air, but not much as far as the chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms. Very wet out to the east today from Pittsburgh right on through Wheeling, West Virginia, and in some parts of the Ohio Valley, upwards of 3 inches of rain, and quite a few strong to even severe thunderstorms still popping up down in Louisiana. Here is the satellite in motion, and it shows that there was a little bit of rain in southern Illinois today coming off of this large system that's just off to the south of us. But look at these clouds explode from South Dakota right on through southern Minnesota and down now into Iowa, and it looks as though that's going to be the case most of the night. Temperature readings tonight right here in central Illinois will drop down into the 60s. We could be as cool as 64, just about like this morning. And then tomorrow, we're up into the 90s, it looks like, at every spot. If you're going to the Sangamon County Fair, as I am doing tomorrow, to be one of the judges of the Sangamon County Queen Pageant, it's going to be a roaster, but it's going to be a great day to be at the fair. Check on the forecast right after this.
It's Northtown Ford's Spring Madness Sale, where you get 2.9% APR financing. You get up to $2,000 cash back, and you get Northtown Ford's deep discounts, like this new loaded 1996 Ford Contour GL 4-door for only $289 per month. Or right now, you can lease a new 96 Explorer 4x4, the #1 selling sport utility vehicle, for $275 per month. It's Northtown Ford's Spring Madness Sale, going on now at Northtown Ford in Decatur.
Pretty terrific night. Clear sky, low at 64. Northwest winds nice and light, mostly sunny. High at 92 tomorrow. Northwest winds at about 5 to 10. By tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, the humidity will start to gradually go up, and we'll get into the hot and humid conditions. As of tomorrow night, a clear sky, low at 68. Nice and sticky and hot on Friday with a high at 95 degrees. No rain in the forecast, it looks like, until Monday, Saturday, and Sunday. Looking just absolutely delightful. Maybe you have plans to go to Lovington to enjoy that June Fest. 96 Saturday's high and 94 on Sunday.
We're about overdue for summer weather. It's here.
Officially here.
Thanks, Bob. When we come back, our news extra tonight, the battle over using animals to help find a cure for AIDS and other diseases.
Then in sports, find out why this will forever be a special day in St. Louis Cardinals baseball history.
It's easy to find a huge selection of cars, trucks, and vans all in one location when you shop the Big Three in Little Detroit in Clinton, Anderson, Baum, Douglas. With 9 different makes to choose from, the Big Three in Little Detroit have teamed up to offer you the best selection in central Illinois of new and pre-owned vehicles. Their helpful staffs and friendly atmosphere guarantees personalized service, and their goal is to keep you satisfied. The Big Three in Little Detroit, where selection and service is the heart of their business.
I like this one.
Being a single parent with 3 kids, I'm trying to make ends meet on my own, so I gotta save. The savings I'm using for activities for the kids. We go skating some weekends, to the movies. Every little penny is a dime, whatever I can save. I mean, if I can save it, it helps. I'd like to be able to send them to college someday. And we saw Walmart. We just came in the first time and couldn't believe the difference in the prices. So we've been here ever since.
Let's go racing! Don't miss the $10,500 Pride of the Prairie Challenge, professional AMA motorcycle racing, Sunday, June 23rd at the Decatur-Macon County Fairgrounds, the kickoff event of the 1996 Macon County Fair. You'll see 4 classes of motorcycle racing on the half mile, Sunday, June 23rd. Time trials at noon, races at 1:30, and meet 3-time national champ Jay Springsteen. The Pride of the Prairie Challenge, Sunday, June 23rd. $10 race tickets are on sale at the Macon County Fairgrounds. Don't miss the excitement.
Should the all-new 1997 LeSabre by Buick be on your new car shopping list? Well, That's a matter of opinion.
IntelliChoice's opinion, best overall large car value. Kiplinger's opinion, first for safety. Car Buyer's opinion, best-selling full-size car 5 years running.
And now with LeSaber's special low payment lease, it's no longer a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact. LeSaber is your standout choice in a family-sized car. See your Buick dealer today.
Defenders of animal rights are tangling with AIDS activists. The issue is the use of animals for biomedical research.
And the debate led to a confrontation at a Washington news conference, as you'll see in tonight's News Extra.
Growing tensions between the animal rights movement and the AIDS community came to a head Tuesday. Animal protection advocate Lawrence Carter Long was ejected from a Washington, D.C. news conference sponsored by those favoring the use of animals to research drugs for AIDS and other diseases.
If we listen to the radical animal rights leaders of today, 2 million Americans will die.
The flashpoint was an experimental baboon bone marrow transplant last year into AIDS patient and activist Jeff Getty. The transplant failed, but Getty's health improved, and he continues to support animal research.
The tactics of the animal rights fanatics go far beyond the polite debate. Scientists and people with AIDS are singled out for harassment, death threats, and legal nonsense.
Getty was the subject of criticism at an earlier news conference sponsored by People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA.
With the baboon experiment failed and him continuing to promote it, he's clearly flogging a dead horse, or in this case, a baboon.
Stephen Simmons, who was diagnosed with AIDS 3 years ago, doesn't share Getty's view.
And we will not stand by and allow a handful of misled activists in an unholy alliance with AIDS profiteers to use our plight to justify the continued torture of animals.
Researchers say they need animals to test life-saving drugs and devices. Opponents say there are less cruel alternatives. Both animal rights groups and AIDS activists use high-profile flamboyant techniques to make their point, and both have attracted considerable support from the show business community.
Entertainment people that stick with PETA can no longer wear a red ribbon because they're killing us.
Each side charges the other with acting out of self-interest, not real compassion.
To say that I'm being used by the biomedical community is a dupe, and their attempt to keep animal research going is a joke.
The battle over animal experimentation will continue on Thursday. AIDS activists will demonstrate at a big animal rights meeting just outside Washington. Jeff Levine, CNN, Washington.
Next in sports, Ozzie Smith won't be playing for the St. Louis Cardinals next season. Lon Tay will let us know why.
And those Cardinals are red hot. Highlights of their 5th straight win next in sports.
Something fresh is coming up at Subway, presenting Subway's fresh value meals. Take a peek at any of 7 sandwiches. Fresh baked bread, all made right before your eyes. Now get a 6-inch sub with chips and a 21-ounce soft drink, starting at $2.99. Subway, no better value on land or sea.
Looking for a sport utility with these kinds of standard features? Chevy Blazer's the only way to go. Ford Explorer Eddie Bauer has some things, like less horsepower, and it costs $2,200 more. Grand Cherokee Limited has the horsepower, but it costs $5,000 more. Only Chevy Blazer comes with all this standard for thousands less than the competition. Chevy Blazer. Now get 4.8 financing on Blazer from your Super Chevy dealers of Central Illinois.
Central Illinois, it's going to be a swinging summer for Chevys, Nissans, and Geos.
and Miles' selection has never been better.
Announcing Miles Summer Sale. Melting prices mean sizzling savings. Get a Nissan Quest with keyless entry and full power equipment for only $20,790. Drive home this Geo Prism with dual airbags and cassette for only $12,995. And finally, get big summer savings on this Chevy S10 with air and cassette for only $11,500.
The deals are hot, so drive home a winner today at Miles.
Tonight's sports is brought to you in part by your Central Illinois Dodge dealers.
Well, Ozzie is off to other things, but the Cardinals still give him some excitement.
Yeah, and he's still got the rest of the season. I think that's one thing I was so sad to do.
I want to know, are you over your depression yet?
You're going to be all right?
I think so.
Okay, good.
I don't know. It just hasn't hit yet. You know, in 1982, after 4 seasons with the Padres, Ozzie Smith found himself in a Cardinals uniform, and he's been there ever since. Today, good old #1 made sure that his final baseball game will be in that same Cardinal uniform. You would encounter a few arguments by saying that Ozzie Smith was the best defensive shortstop to ever play the game. The records prove it. 13 Gold Gloves, a record low 8 errors in a season by a shortstop, and 7 times the Wizard led all shortstops in fielding percentage.
What a play! That's why they call him the Wizard!
He was respected by his peers, by managers, and especially by fans, who have sent Ozzie to the All-Star game 14 times in his 19 seasons. Today, Ozzie announced this would be his final big league season, finishing his career exactly where he wanted to.
My thing was to finish my career as a Saint.
They told Freeman Stephen Hance, quoting now, "My father and my brother died for that flag." Now, only 4 of the 14 arrested Freeman agreed to have their pictures taken in jail, and all of the Freeman refused to be fingerprinted.
They have certain ideas about various issues that they want to express. There's an appropriate way to do that, and they'll have an opportunity to bring their ideas forward. But it's also very important that the dignity of the court be respected and that matters be conducted within the law, and that's what will happen.
Now, several friends and relatives visited the Freeman in jail. Kay Clark is the woman on the left of your screen. She's in a flowered shirt. She's the wife of Freeman Emmett Clark, rather, and she's one of 2 women who are on the ranch but have not been charged. Now, about 200 miles away from Billings in the small town of Brissett, FBI agents spent the day going over evidence at the Freeman Ranch, where the standoff occurred, of course, for 81 days. Agents had negotiated a peaceful surrender yesterday, even though there were several obstacles at the last minute, including apparently one Freeman who decided that at the last minute he did not want to come out. But eventually he was persuaded to do so. Now, next week there will be a number of hearings here in Billings in federal court. On Tuesday, a number of Freemen will face a hearing on whether they'll be allowed to have bail. Then on Thursday, an arraignment on most of the charges will be held. And then Friday, there is one more hearing. Several of the Freemen face charges not stemming from the original indictment, charges that they incurred while they were on the ranch during the standoff. And there will be a hearing Friday on the evidence in that matter. Lyndon?
All right, CNN's Jim Hill in Billings, Montana. Thanks very much. Coincidence or conspiracy?
Just ahead on The World today, looking for clues in the ashes of churches. And it's not just black churches.
They were trained by the U.S., sent into North Vietnam, and left for dead. But some are very much alive. And you may not believe the story they have to tell.
To access CNN Interactive on the World Wide Web, call 1-800-WORLDNET, extension CNN for free internet software.
Some investors prefer to use a full menu of brokerage advice and services, while others find their personal computers the right investing tool. Announcing eSchwab, state-of-the-art software that gives you access to information and research and major savings with online investing for just $39 per stock trade. For more information and a special introductory offer, call 1-800-eSchwab. It's the future of trading from one of the biggest names in trading.
Recently, Jeep engineers made an amazing discovery.
We found it. Yeah, the perfect way to improve our four-wheel drive system.
And one discovery led to another.
Wow. Our new suspension enhancements perform great out here.
The new Jeep Grand Cherokee. Four-Wheeler Magazine's Four-Wheeler of the Year.
Amazing.
The dual airbags?
Yeah.
Obviously, our engineers didn't miss a thing.
We made a name for ourselves by inventing a wonder drug. And now, we're improving the diagnosis and treatment of major diseases. Our energy-absorbing foams make cars safer than ever. And our crop protectants help farmers produce a more abundant food supply.
So much good we can do for each other. Oh, what a world it can be.
Bayer. In healthcare, chemicals, and imaging technologies, we cure more headaches than you think.
Sunday on CNN Presents. This summer, the world is coming to Atlanta, but along with the Olympians comes the threat of terrorism.
The risk of terrorism is probably higher than it ever has been.
A risk that requires special Olympic training.
We are practicing for situations we hope never occur.
The Olympics will have the largest security force in history, but will it be enough? The challenge of guarding the games on the next CNN Presents, Sunday, 9 Eastern.
The whole world loves a movie where an ordinary person does something incredible. That's the American dream.
Yo, Adrian! I did it!
Watch an entire week of great movies about the American dream. Tuesday night at 8 on TNT.
They were staging a stunt on the set of a new Steven Spielberg movie, but what happened wasn't in the script. Two stunt people were injured in the accident. The stand-ins for actors George Clooney and Nicole Kidman suffered scrapes and bruises when they missed a safety mat.
Officials investigating the fire at a predominantly black church in Oklahoma finally know the cause: arson. Police say a specially trained dog picked up several traces of an accelerant within what remains of the First Missionary Baptist Church. They have no definite suspects in the case and are still interviewing witnesses.
In conjunction with the ATF and FBI, have conducted numerous investigations and interviews with several people over the last 2 days. We have talked to probably 20 or 25 individuals at length that had any contact with this church whatsoever, people just roaming up and down the street. Those type of interviews will continue. And now that we have a better direction, knowing that we are definitely dealing with an arson, we're definitely dealing with some form of accelerant, we hope that the line of questioning will get a little bit better and we'll be in better shape.
The Oklahoma church is one of more than 30 predominantly black